15 years ago, an influential businessman casually bought a box of shoes and gave a boy on the street a gold watch. He had no idea that this small gesture would one day save him in his darkest hour. Years later, the man went bankrupt and was left without a penny. He barely managed to scrape together money for his wife's surgery, but when he tried to pay at the hospital, the nurse coldly told him he didn't have enough. The man was devastated. Just the day before, he had begged his adopted son to sell the house to save his wife. At that moment, his adopted son and daughter appeared. He thought they had come to help him, but when he asked about the money, his son arrogantly said he had it. Yet instead of helping, his daughter coldly replied that it wasn't worth spending so much money on someone who wouldn't live much longer. The man called them ungrateful, but the son accused him of adopting them. He said that if it weren't for that fake kindness, much richer people could have adopted them. Just then, the man's wife arrived. Seeing the cruelty of their children, her blood pressure spiked and her health worsened. In despair, the man went to seek out people he had once helped. He asked them to return the money, but they all refused, saying that without proof, they wouldn't give him anything. Enraged, the men overturned their mahjong table, and in return, they beat him. They told him to kneel and beg if he wanted even a little. Thinking of his wife, the men had no choice but to kneel. But all he received were more jeers and humiliation before being thrown out. At that moment, he got a call from the hospital. His wife needed surgery within 24 hours or she would die. But he had nothing left. In despair, the man saw news on his phone. The country's largest corporation was hosting a charity gala. What he didn't know was that the CEO of that company was the very same boy he had helped 15 years ago. Inspired by the businessman's words, the boy had worked hard, built an empire, and returned to the country to find his benefactor, never realizing that this savior lived right next door. Meanwhile, the man's best friend, eager to become a partner of the CEO, received a call from the secretary. She asked if he knew the bankrupt man. He hesitated for a moment and kept silent. Disappointed, she hung up, which led everyone to suspect that the CEO was looking for his adoptive father. They wondered if this man had made many enemies, and perhaps the CEO was one of them. The adopted son then came up with a cruel idea. They could humiliate the old man and thus get closer to the CEO. He immediately went to him, pretending to be concerned. The man explained his desperate need for money for his wife's surgery. His friend pulled out a wad of cash, but instead of helping, he tossed the bills into the air, mocking the man in front of everyone. Then he asked his son to bring in the CEO, hoping to strengthen their ties. But he didn't know he would pay dearly for this cruelty. The CEO learned that his benefactor was downstairs and rushed to him. Meanwhile, the others continued to humiliate the man, until the CEO arrived just in time, moments before they could strike him.